Alrighty. I think since we're 3 minutes in and we want to use all the time that we have, we're going to go ahead and get started. This webinar is also going to be recorded, so it will be nice for people who are not able to make it today to watch it back. So welcome for those who are here to our next webinar series, so to say. In this episode, we'll dive deeper into the world of knowledge creation and why it's relevant for communities centered around healthy living. And healthy living can be a very broad term. In some of our communities, we see people really approach this from an sustainable employment perspectives, and in others, it's more conventional around healthcare. But we'll dive into that. So before we start, if you have any questions, please feel free to put them in the chat throughout the webinar, and we'll address them at the end of the first part of the webinar. So maybe first things first. My name is Isabel Hommes. I'm from Thrive Institute. We're an organization based in Rotterdam in the Netherlands, really focusing on how to maximize societal impact for various types of organizations. And today we're going to talk about knowledge creation and how it's used to boost impact and make a difference in these local communities. To talk about this, we have invited two lovely ladies, Cecile Verhaar, lecturer and researcher at Tilburg University in the Netherlands, and Annette Sveen from one of these local communities, Eems-Delta in Groningen in the northern part of the Netherlands, to tell us about their experiences about knowledge creation. To give you a little bit of context, NES is an international Erasmus Plus project aimed at stimulating and supporting healthy living in local communities. And in this project, we bring together public and private organizations, knowledge partners, citizens, and see how we can promote healthy living from a systemic approach. To do so, our consortium of partners focuses on 4 themes. One of those themes, of course, being knowledge creation, which we'll tell you more about today. And we have 3 other themes, namely community engagement and citizen science, reflexive monitoring, and sustainable financing and governance. If you are interested in those themes as well, then keep an eye out on LinkedIn, because we have webinars basically every week in this time of the year, and that will dive more into these topics. We use our expertise in the NEST project and with our partners to support 5 local communities across Europe. These are, like I said, centered around improving healthy living. So to get started, today's webinar will, like I said, really focus on knowledge creation. So how it's created, transferred, spread, and how it flourishes in an ecosystem or in a local community, as we like to call it. We will talk about strategies to ensure that knowledge is not only spread, but also thrives and amplifies impact. So I would love to ask Cecile, who's here today, to tell us a little bit about what you do, your research, and your take on knowledge creation in practice, so to say.
Okay. Thank you very much, Isabel. Very happy to be here. I'm a work and organizational psychologist. I'm specialized in cultural psychology, communication, and team dynamics. I also studied history, so I have a little bit of a broad view on everything. And now I'm working at the Department of Organization Studies at Tilburg University. There I research on knowledge circulation. That's kind of a process in which knowledge is created, shared, transferred, spread, and then between individuals, groups, but also organizations and regions. And at this moment I'm studying teams, inter-organizational teams, and for instance, inter-organizational collaborations to see how knowledge is created. So innovation is a very interesting topic for my research, but also how to spread knowledge, also how people hide knowledge. That's also very interesting. So that's more or less my topic and my expertise.
Very nice. Thank you for that introduction. Annette, could I also ask you to tell us a little bit more about the community of Ames Delta and how you guys look at knowledge creation in your local context?
Yes, of course. Thank you for inviting me. The community of Ames Delta is a community, like you said, in the northeast part of Groningen in the Netherlands. And in our community, we have a lot of problem with the aging population and at the same time leaving of youngsters. So it's hard to keep building up our community. So we really focus on that. Besides that, we also have to deal with a lot of damage from earthquakes due to gas extraction, which is also a reason why people are leaving. So to make a community with a focus on healthy living, we have different initiatives within the community. And there are like a lot of different initiatives in a lot of different places, and we try to unite them with a program team, Health and Wellbeing Ames Delta is called, which really managed all these different initiatives and also tries to share the insights that we have. We have an approach that we call Strong Villages and Neighborhoods, where we really focus on empowering the citizens, that they are in charge and they rebuild their community in a way that's working for them. And we are developing a campus, and we focus on place-based learning. Now, within all this project, there's knowledge created within the citizens and in learning community, where we also work a lot of education. But I think we still have a lot to learn about how to create knowledge and how to really make an impact and also spread it, because now it's still a lot like within these different initiatives and how can we really create knowledge and really make it flourish our community. That's really a challenge still. So Cecile, I'm really interested in like what are working mechanisms to create knowledge in your opinion?
Yeah, there are a lot, I think, but I think the most important are actually two: to really create knowledge in a diverse group, because you're talking about a group that's made out of a lot of different kinds of people with a lot of different backgrounds, I think. First of all, trust, of course. You have to trust each other to even get together and share your knowledge. But another one is communication. And it seems very obvious, but I think what I see a lot in my research also is sometimes there's a different opinion about the goal and the roles of the collaboration. So people think they understand each other, but they don't. Also, it's very important to understand the backgrounds of the participants in the group that have to create the knowledge. So you need to know where people come from, what they know, what you think they know. So yeah, it's very important to translate and to share interpretations. There are some steps in creating knowledge, and also combining then the knowledge you share in a sensible way. Because sometimes there's a lot of knowledge, people just throw it into a can and shake it a little bit, and they say, okay, this is what we came up with. So I think it's very important to start with a very clear goal, a very clear understanding about what are we doing here, what do we want to achieve, and also make sure you have the same idea about this, because sometimes you think you understand each other, but you really do not. So I think that's, yeah, so that are the core mechanisms that are very important, I think.
Well, thank you. I do think that especially the trust, we're really focusing on doing that, but it was really nice to hear an explanation, because I think we can even get more out of it. Another thing that I'm also seeing is that the knowledge is still really within the initiatives, and the citizens are collecting the knowledge of getting the data and well, there's need to be done something with that knowledge, and also transfer it back into our community and in order to develop it further. Can you tell something about how we really can get the knowledge back to the people and make it in such a way that they can use it?
Yes, you talk about transferring the knowledge
Yeah.
from science to practice. I think translating is a very interesting word in that case, because you have to translate whatever you have to tell to make sure the audience you are talking to understands what you're talking about. So I think first you have to translate literally almost what you found. So the audience can understand what you talk about, but also we see a lot of that. That's also a challenge for us as academics to translate whatever we find in the academic world to practice, because we have these theories and we have these ideas, but then it also has to fit practice. So you also have to make another translation to make sure it fits practice. So not only who are you talking about, but also what are you talking about in this case? You talked about place-based knowledge. I think that's a very interesting thing. So that's already a little bit of a translation, I think. But yeah, that are I think the challenges. Also, to further develop, I think you have to ask for feedback, also check with the audience, check with the practitioners, so you get this loop, this iterative process. And I think that those are the most important things to transfer the knowledge you have. And make sure it develops a little bit more. You can learn again from the feedback you get, and this also makes it more practical, because you have this connection with the people you are talking about and talking to.
Yeah, that does make sense, and I feel like translating is a good word for it, and that feels something a bit difficult with all these different roles within the community, and really get the right language, like even that we are all in the same community, like really speaking with the same language is already a challenge. And another thing that's maybe a little bit related is also sharing this knowledge, and even within our own community, within these initiatives, like getting the knowledge out and get it like beyond our community. Like even within the community it's already difficult, but also beyond the community. Like what is your expertise on spreading this knowledge? What works best?
I think this has to do with learning and with taking in the knowledge, because if you just know things, that's okay, but you have to be able to use it. I think that's the next step. So I think this is about learning. And people learn in different ways. Again, if you want to take it beyond your own community, again, the translation is very important. But also use different channels, I think. So you have different audiences. Again, you can use newspaper articles, but also podcasts or more academic pieces, short pitches, storytelling, whatever it takes to get your message across, I think. Then repeating, that it sounds very obvious, but repeating the message maybe also in different ways, because it has to come across and it has to sink in. Further, you can maybe organize some workshops or some courses or webinars or seminars, or like this webinar. So be very creative, I think, in spreading the knowledge. Yeah, again, it really depends on the audience. So again, this translation could be interesting. It depends. Are you talking to a government? Are you talking to something on TV, or are you just making a podcast for people that are maybe a little bit more into that. Yeah, so I think the key word here is use different channels and use different ways to transfer this knowledge and keep repeating it.
Thank you. I think we don't do that enough yet, but that's a good advice to see who are we targeting and who do you want to speak to. We talked about that we do a lot of place-based learning and get place-based knowledge because it's really in our context. It's interesting also within the NEST project that we come in contact with other communities to learn from, but how can we make our place-based knowledge more general? How can we make it more usable that also in other contexts, for example, in Portugal, how can we use the same knowledge there?
Yeah, we can. I think we can spend a whole webinar on that one, but just to give a short answer, I think maybe you should turn the idea around. So I think you start with the context. So you have knowledge from one context, then you have this other context. So you could compare contexts and differentiate. So see what's different and what's the same, and then you can see if you can use the knowledge you already have in this different context. Also, it might be slightly different, of course, but you can maybe use the basic of the knowledge and then kind of just twitch it a little bit, tweak it a little bit to use it in another context. Again, this translation is very important, I think. Also, you can adapt it a little bit if necessary. But I would say just look at the contexts, how they differ, how they are the same, and how you can use whatever you know in this other context. Also, you can make use, but that's a whole different topic, I think. Knowledge brokers, for instance, so people that translate this knowledge into the other context. You can use boundary organizations, so organizations that are a little bit on one region and on the other region, so they have the knowledge already of these different contexts, so you can see whatever is useful in the other context. So but I think it's a little bit of a puzzle, so you need to compare wherever you're working. But again, we can have a whole webinar on this, because there are so many differences and so many similarities between regions. So in some regions you can use knowledge you gained in another region, but sometimes you really have to adapt the knowledge you have to make it fit another region. So it also depends a little bit on which place you are talking about.
Nice. Maybe also a question from Mai and Cecile. In the beginning, you also mentioned that you're really interested in your research in hidden knowledge and how people hide it. Could you tell a little bit more about that? I think that's also relevant in extension to the question Annette asked.
Yes, if we talk about knowledge, people usually think about creating knowledge, like innovation, or sharing knowledge, like working in an integral team to solve a complex problem or something like that. But there's also some instances that people hide knowledge, and they sometimes do it on purpose. But sometimes also they don't know they have the knowledge, or they are not aware they have the knowledge, or other people are not aware they have the knowledge. So I think that's, of course, if somebody really hides it on purpose, then there's not a lot you can do. But this is also what I talked about in the beginning. It's very important to know who you are talking to, where they are coming from. So what is their background? And make sure, even if you share this knowledge, that you know exactly what they mean. So keep asking until you are really on the same page about it. Because sometimes a lot of times actually, we think we understand each other, but we actually are completely in a different world. And we see a lot of collaborations with different organizations that have to work together on like a complex problem or to solve something. They just talk and they don't really talk. So that's, but also sometimes people just hide on purpose. And that's, yeah, there's not a lot you can do about that. It could be a tactical hiding, so it could be part of a strategy not to talk about everything you know. Of course, you can understand if organizations work together that are kind of competitive, but right, have worked together for innovation or something like that. They do not share everything. So yeah, but I think sometimes, a lot of times, people know much more than they share, or people assume that the other one doesn't know something that he does know, or so it's very important to also dive deeper in where people are coming from. And I think it's very nice with the citizen participation, because I think that's very underestimated. So I think the citizens, so the people that actually are living in this community, really have a lot of information. So it's very important to also involve them. Yeah.
Yeah, very nice. And I think it's also really important to focus on people not always being aware that they have knowledge to contribute, because it's maybe unconventional or considered not to be important. And maybe, Annette, you are also involved in the citizen science team. And I know you had a webinar on it last week, but could you maybe share like a snapshot of maybe something that you discussed similar to this, or not, or how you guys approach it?
Yes, I really like the bridge between the citizen science, where the people are really getting the information, and this team, knowledge creation, where we really use that data that they discover, and to really combine both the strength of the citizens and getting really the strength of knowledge creation. I think if we combine those two, we could really make some impact in our community. So both topics are really interesting for me to learn much more about. And Cecile, when I hear you talking, I get like a million more questions, which won't fit in this webinar, but it's so interesting how much more we can learn, like already from you, that really can help us make impact in our community. And especially the parts where you talk about like talking about the same language and translating, because I feel that's still a big step to overcome, and in that way also giving the citizens more power again.
Yeah, but even in professional organizations that work together all the time with very heavy problems, and there's a problem with that. So are we talking about the same thing? Are we coming from the same background, and do we have the same goal actually in this issue? Because sometimes you think you want to help, for instance, a community or a group or whatever, but then what is the help you want to give them? What is it you want to achieve? And that could be completely different for each organization. So yeah.
Yeah. Looking at the time as well, I think we have a question from Aline in the chat, and she said, very interesting topic. Can you elaborate a bit on what motivates people to share their knowledge for innovation in complex contexts? What triggers citizens, for example, to share their place-based knowledge about a certain topic, and how can we get to the sweet spot together where we use all knowledge? Big question, but we have some time to, I guess, dissect it a little bit. So maybe starting with what motivates people to share knowledge from for innovation in complex contexts. I know, Cecilia, talked about knowledge brokers, which is, of course, someone who knows how to translate knowledge into different languages that are understood by different audiences. But maybe you can or you or Annette can share a little bit more about what can motivate people to do so.
Shall I start, Annette?
Sure.
Yeah. Well, as a psychologist, because that's also what I am, to be honest, what motivates people is if there's something in it for them. So it sounds very awful if I say it like this, but that's usually if people see the point. So if they have this idea of, oh, but this is interesting because we can achieve something, or there's something I can gain, or even feeling part of a community that kind of does this together or something like that, can motivate people to help in this case, I think.
Yeah, that makes sense, and I can imagine that it really depends on who you have in front of you. But could you maybe share some examples of what you've encountered through your work in this field, of how people went about it, maybe?
I think that's for Annette, right? Or
Yeah, either of you.
I think in our community, it's really that people they will have a better place to live with the things they really want in it. So that's what in it for them. So yeah, I can relate to what you're saying, Cecile.
Yeah.
And I also think that people want to be heard. So we have we do a lot of research in organizations with people that are super busy, and then then there are some people, some managers that say, oh, we don't have time for that actually, but the people that have to do the interviews or whatever, they are so happy to contribute and to share their thoughts and to be heard. So that's also very important.
Yeah.
A lot of the times. Yeah.
Yeah. And looking at the chat, Aline also said, I can imagine what you said, Cecile. So that means we really have to listen very carefully to be aware of what lives within people. Are there?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
I think there's a lot of information if you just let people talk and just let them open up and give their opinions, and I think that's very useful. Yeah.
Nice. Nice. Alrighty. Well, seeing that we have answered some of the questions in the chat, I don't know, maybe there's one more coming in. And looking at the time, we've talked a little bit about knowledge creation, how it spreads, how it's created, how it translates, but also maybe some of the challenges that we are still facing when it comes to knowledge creation and ways of overcoming these. So I want to thank, first of all, Cecile and Annette both for coming today and sharing your knowledge about knowledge. And also for those watching, this will be recorded and sent out later. And the next webinars will be announced regarding the different themes in the NEST project in the upcoming weeks via LinkedIn. So if there are not any more questions or remarks, maybe Annette and Cecile have a final remark. I think this is it for now. And thank you all.